All right, and we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back for another episode, guys. And today we are officially rounding out our look at the Indianapolis Colts position groups. We have talked about the entire offense, the entire defense, and we are finishing it out by talking about the Indianapolis Colts special teams unit. So, before we dive into that, guys, just want to let you know this episode is presented by PrizePicks. So be sure to hop over to prizepicks.com today or use their mobile app and use the code BTJ when you sign up for a $100 deposit match. All right, Derek, let's hop right into this Colts special teams unit. Before we kind of go into individual players, I mean, it was a unit that had some moments last year. So up and down moments, I think probably more up than down, but still had some moments where you're like, still would like a little bit more of some things to be cleaned up for that unit. But I think overall, when you look at the unit with, obviously talking about, first year for, the new special teams coordinator after Bubba Ventrone leaves, Brian Mason. What were your impressions, Derek, of the special teams unit for the Colts in 2023?
You're right. It had its ups, it had its downs. I'd say from a consistency standpoint and revolving the kicking, it was actually not too bad this year. There was a few times, like you said, but it was overwhelmingly better than what it was bad, which is definitely something that we needed over what we had in 2022. So that's good. Only real concern I ever had with the overall coverage was maybe on punts. I think that we had a couple times, and especially in that Pittsburgh game, remember that one blocked punt that we had that ended up costing us a touchdown early in the game. We're lucky that one didn't cost us the whole entire game, so thank God for that. But other than that, I felt like it was pretty good nonetheless. We remember that Tennessee game, man. They blocked 2 punts. So, I mean, the Colts have always had that, at least 1 or 2 games throughout the season where the Colts block a punt and it alters the course of a game. So, ultimately, I didn't think there was a ton of drop off. I did get a little bit nervous with the punt coverage a little bit later in the season, but hopefully we'll have that figured out. Otherwise, it didn't look to be too bad for me this year.
Yeah, and I can recount a couple games where special teams definitely helped the Colts win. You mentioned that Tennessee game, obviously that was huge. That one stands out, but I even think that Baltimore game, when Matt Gay had to go in there and he made 5 of 5 field goals, and that was ultimately the difference in that game. And so I think there were definitely some highlights, some lowlights, a little bit of everything, but I think overall special teams contributed more than it hindered last year, which is definitely a good thing. But obviously still a lot to work on for this unit. I mentioned Matt Gay, so we'll just kind of go into that. Derek, kind of a weird season for Matt Gay because he started off extremely strong, right? He had some really good games where he looked fantastic. And then as the season went on, he kind of got in a little bit of a slump, especially it felt like from basically 40 to 59 yards is where kind of he missed a lot of his field goals. Now, I will say, from 40 yards, he was 7 of 9, so that's still pretty respectable, but really that 50 to 59-yard range, Derek, is kind of where Matt Gay had some struggles at times. When you look at Matt Gay overall, he only made 8 of 12 from 50 yards beyond, and then obviously he attempted one from 60. That was no good. And so by far his worst percentage of field goal attempts versus field goals made, only 80.5. So Matt Gay definitely had some moments where you're like, wow, this guy is definitely worth that money. Then some other head-scratching moments where you're like, what is going on with Matt Gay right now, where he just was in this weird slump. So what do you take from Matt Gay and kind of the season he had last year overall?
Well, I will say you're definitely right. From that 50-plus range, that's what Matt Gay was known for. Did go 8 of 13 last year, which is ironic that you mentioned it again. The back end of the season having it at a worse time. He missed 4 of the 5 misses he had from 50 plus. 4 of them came in the final 8 weeks of the season. I don't think the injury is much to blame with that. I don't know if maybe potentially it messed up his psyche a little bit. I don't know. But
I think it did a
you're
little
right.
bit.
It felt like it's almost like there was a shift, which is so weird because, like you said, in the early part of the season, I mean, remember, we praised Matt Gay for being the reason we beat Baltimore. He literally hit 5 field goals in that game. He was special teams player of the week. I mean, we don't win that game without Matt Gay hitting the field goals that he did in hostile territory, right? So, I mean, there's plenty of good things to take away from that, and had a couple of really good performances all the rest of the way. But like you said, that at the back end of the year, you're right. He struggled from distance. Anything beyond 40 yards, it became increasingly difficult for him. So it was definitely a concern. The worst game he had all year was the one where he missed both a field goal and an extra point against Cincinnati. But we both concluded that pretty much that was just a game where the Colts just got off the bus and were just going through the motions. Nobody was really prepared for that game. So we kind of just chalked it up at that. But outside of that, I mean, that's the only extra point he missed all year. So, it wasn't an overall bad year for Matt Gay. Like you said, somewhere after week 9, somewhere after that, he just was unable to hit a lot of bootlegs. And I don't know if that's just, as time goes on, maybe it just got harder for him to do so. I don't know, but I'm really hoping that this next year, if he has, those 13 field goals again, opportunities, hopefully we see him hit at least 10 of those going forward. But I don't know. It wasn't overall. It was not a bad year for Matt Gay. It was a solid year, but certainly not quite as great as what we had hoped that we would get from him, considering what we paid for him.
Yeah, and he was dealing with that right hip injury for a good chunk of the middle of the season to the back half of the season. So, I mean, that kind of explains a little bit why he was off, because he was money before that injury. Like, he was
Yes.
on point. So I'm hoping to chalk it up to just some injuries, some mental stuff. But, he's worked through it. Obviously, he's a pro. He's been so consistent every other year. So I'm hoping that, like, now that he's fully healthy, that won't be a concern moving forward. I'm personally fine with, where Matt Gay is. I'm not really overly concerned at this point because, like you said, yeah, there were some moments where it wasn't great for Matt Gay. And by his standards, it was not a good season. But, he still made 80% of his field goals and he only missed one of those extra points. It's not like he's missing, like, when you look at it, it's not like he's missing these chip shots all the time. Like, he was making some of those. Just that hip, I think, kind of made him a little bit less able to make some of those longer attempts. So that definitely contributed. But hopefully he can get back to his normal self here after, recovering this, off season and things like that. So definitely hope for that, because Matt Gay's a weapon definitely when he is fully healthy. So hoping that he's good moving forward.
As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling against thousands of other players across platforms, you're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball, and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use code BTJ for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code BTJ for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, it's sponsored by PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Now, moving to really when you talk about another guy that I think really had some moments last year, and I think more positive moments, honestly, than Matt Gay did. Rigoberto Sanchez, obviously the Colts re-signed him on that one-year deal. But Derek, I mean, he started off pretty slowly at the beginning of the season. Now, remember, he's coming off that Achilles injury, so that's going to take some time to get back to. He started off, had some interesting games, but he came back, Derek, and had a career year with a 48.25 average on 69 punts and 21 punts inside the 20. So, I mean, Rigo definitely showed as he started to get back into form, more in the middle and the later part of the season, that he still is a really good punter for the Colts. And so they definitely, obviously felt like they could re-sign him and they want him around. But yeah, talk to me about Rigo, man, coming off that injury and what you saw from him in his first full season back.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a heck of a ride, hasn't it, for Rigoberto Sanchez? I mean, dealing with the cancer diagnosis first, and then dealing with another injury. I mean, it's a lot to take in for someone of any kind. So, for him to come back and be able to handle the situation that he has, and not really miss much of a step. I mean, Rigoberto Sanchez, by all accounts, I don't think the leg is quite there anymore, but it certainly hasn't fallen off. I mean, it's certainly still very serviceable. Like you said, 21 punts inside the 20-yard line. He's such a technician. He does a great job of just not having bad punts. I think there was probably only about one punt all year that he did have that was anything less than 40 yards. So, I mean, when you see Rigoberto Sanchez go out there, it's going to be a good punt. It's not going to be in an unfavorable situation. That it's going to be to the right side of the field. It's going to be close to the 20. And that's always a great insurance blanket to have when that you're having to punt, and knowing that someone like that is out there to be able to do that.
Yeah, Rigo is so good at what he does. I think he's probably the most underrated punter in the NFL, to be honest. Nobody talks about him as one of the top punters, but I feel like every single year when he's healthy, he's right up there in all those categories.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He definitely deserves more recognition and praise than he definitely gets. He's just not, he's obviously not Pat McAfee. He's not out there talking, but he just does his job so well. And I just think we need to give Rigo more credit for what he does, especially, like you said, all the crap he's been through, from the diagnosis to the injury, and he's still bounced back every single time and just gotten better for it. So definitely love the story of Rigoberto Sanchez, and glad he's been, so consistent for the Colts, and really, I think, filled the shoes after McAfee retired so well. So I just love him and want to give him a special shout out, because we never talk about special teams or punters, or we never talk about these guys individually, especially punters. So definitely want to give him a shout out. He definitely deserves that. And then, Derek, you kind of talked about it a little bit when it comes to some of the coverage units that the Colts have. I mean, I think having a guy like Ashton Dulin back is going to be really important. And just some other guys. You talk about Grant Stewart. You talk about all these different guys. Who's going to be some of the other special teams guys that maybe new. I know Amir Speed at corner played some special teams last year. So that's going to be interesting. And then obviously you throw in, the factor of Anthony Gold being potentially that main return guy. What are your thoughts just on the Colts return game and coverage game, looking forward and projecting into 2024?
Like you said, when it comes to the missing pieces that we had, in addition to, Ashton Doolin missing last year definitely didn't help things at all. With the being a special teams ace, when one of your special team aces goes down, that always stinks. So it always makes it a little bit harder to do special teams. But I felt overall Grant Stewart and a few other guys really picked up the slack when it came to that. And overall, I think even last year, we saw. I don't know if we saw it as much last year, but we saw it a few times in 2022 where you actually started feeling like things were going to be starting to go pretty well for, especially if you had someone like Dallas Flowers out there on returns and whatnot. So I think the Colts have a good return team. I think ultimately a lot of it also is going to come down to Anthony Gold and how he performs. How does he do out there? Because, especially with the new rules, especially on kick returns, that'll definitely shape a lot of things up. It's going to be different now, Cody. So it's kind of hard to go off of like kick returns from years past and try to understand if that's is that gonna make this team better? Is it gonna make this team worse? I don't know. That's going to be something that everybody's going to figure out once we get going with the season. But people did say with Anthony Gold, who is a smaller player and with less field, and someone who is as shifty as he is, they did say that he is built for these kinds of play styles right here on return. So who knows? Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe it works out well for the Colts, or maybe it's the end of us. I have no idea, but that'll be fun to see when we actually get on the field and see how it goes for the first couple times.
And it helps to not have Josh Downs on kicker punt returns.
Please
keep him
off of there. Not even for the fact that he's bad. I just don't want my slot wide receiver to be returning balls. Please don't.
No, please, Anthony Gold, fill those shoes and be good, because we need both of them. We need Dallas Flowers and we need Josh Downs,
literally,
for their respective positions. So yeah, please just take it, run with it, and just be one of the best returners in football. No big deal, right? But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts special teams unit so far. What were your thoughts in 2023? What are your thoughts on this unit moving forward into 2024? Let us know all those things in the comments down below. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Colts.